Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
I just want to say we're gathered here on a cold afternoon, probably one very much like 150 years ago, when Joshua Glover was taken by the federal marshals. On the evening of March 10th, 1854, two wagons carrying two federal marshals and 5 other men made their way to a small cabin that was the home of Joshua Glover. Glover was a runaway slave who had taken up residence in Racine, Wisconsin, and had been working as a skilled carpenter and employed by the local sawmill for 2 years. The federal marshals had a warrant from a federal judge for the arrest of Glover. They burst into the cabin and arrested Glover, but only after they beat him bloody. They manacled him and placed him in one of the wagons. They left from differing directions. One of the wagons was stopped by the Racine County Sheriff after he received word of the federal actions. The wagon he stopped did not have Glover, however, being used as a ruse so the wagon carrying him could get away. Nevertheless, the Racine County Sheriff, Timothy D. Morris, arrested the federal marshal and his assistant on suspicion of kidnapping, assault, and battery.
Whoa. Come on.
The wagon carrying Glover drove 6 hours through the night to Milwaukee, and Glover was placed in the Milwaukee County Jail. Abolitionists soon gathered in Racine and telegraphed word to the abolitionists in Milwaukee as to what had happened to Glover. Sherman Booth, a newspaper editor and avid abolitionist, sprung into action. He printed up handbills and rode through the Milwaukee streets, through Water Street, 3rd Street, down through 2nd Ward, into the heart of Milwaukee's business sections, and then into the 3rd and 5th Wards. As he rode and dispensed the handbills, he yelled at the top of his lungs, "A man's liberty is at stake! Rally at the courthouse at 2 p.m. To Booth's amazement, over 5,000 people gathered. Speeches began, committees were formed, and resolutions were written up. A writ of habeas corpus was written by lawyer and abolitionist Byron Payne. It was approved by a county judge and taken to the federal authorities. The federal marshals were instructed by a federal judge to ignore the writ. A battle between the jurisdictions had begun.
Come on.
At approximately 4 p.m., much of the crowd had dispersed, and the courthouse area only had several hundred remaining of that original 5,000. But as 5 p.m. approached, the Racine County Sheriff arrived by boat with 100 men. They walked in lockstep to the courthouse. This, of course, aroused the Milwaukeeans, and soon thousands were assembled again. And of course, the war continued legally, and another writ was asserted and again rebuffed by the federal authorities. But some in the crowd, concerned for Glover, decided to take action of a different kind. A burly blacksmith, James Angove, grabbed a 6-foot by 6-foot wooden beam from the construction site of St. John Cathedral, and he and others battered down the jail door. Glover, still bloodied from the earlier beating, was brought to a flatbed wagon, and as he stood there looking at the crowd on perhaps a day just like this, he uttered just 2 words: "Glory, hallelujah."
Yeah. Lord.
Glover was taken to Waukesha and hid at a farm. Placed on the Underground Railroad, He made it back to the port of Racine 2 weeks later and was put on a boat and made for Canada. There he lived for another 30 years and died at a ripe old age. The federal government, nonetheless, they were angered that the slave had gotten away, and they ordered the indictment and arrest of Sherman Booth as the ringleader. In a historic act, the Wisconsin Supreme Court and the Wisconsin legislature defied the U.S. Supreme Court. Amen. And the federal government, by interposing on behalf of Booth and declaring the unjust Federal Fugitive Slave Act to be without authority, void, and of no force in the state of Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what our state officials need to do in our day on behalf of the preborn. They need to defy the federal judiciary, defend the preborn, and declare the opinion of Roe versus Wade to be without authority, void, and of no force in the state of Wisconsin.
That's right.
Thank you, Ann. It's a powerful story. It makes you want to weep. Amen. Next, we're going to read a resolution. I'm going to ask Sarah Storms to come here and read the resolution that was put forward by our civil leaders at that time.